Red Dead Redemption takes you on a roller coaster of emotions. One of the best features of this romp through the Old West is the ability to really pull on your heartstrings. The frontier is a harsh place where good things can happen to bad people. I'm James from Curse, and here are a few of the saddest stories you'll find in Red Dead Redemption. Sam Odessa is, like many westward travellers, an ambitious man with a dream. He's trying to complete a journey from his home in Eastern Europe to the Pacific coast in California. Marston runs into him on a couple of different occasions, and each time tries to point him in the right direction to California. But each time Marston finds him, he's even further away from his goal, and he seems to be a little less sane each time. It quickly becomes obvious that he is hopelessly lost in the desert and slowly losing his mind. The first time Marston meets him, Odessa cheerfully talks about getting a stagecoach to California.
Maybe I'll go get me on a coach.
The second time, he's talking about eating cactuses.
These cacti are quite palatable.
And finding horses that solve math problems.
A horse is a very noble creature. Did you ever hear the tale of the horse who could do sums better than any schoolchild?
Then the third time, he pulls a gun on Marston when he offers to help.
You stay away!
By the fourth time Marston finds him, he is a corpse in the middle of the desert, being picked at by a vulture. From a letter Marston finds on his body, you learn that Odessa left behind a wife and child to leave on this journey, disappearing on them in the dead of night without a word to anyone. The letter expresses his remorse about starting out on his journey in the first place, and ends with the words, "I had everything and gave it up in the pursuit of nothing. I fear I have made a terrible mistake, but there is no way to go back now." There is no two ways about it. Irish is a drunken screw-up. He backs out on half of the promises he makes to Marston and drunkenly forgets about the other half. He's a coward who conveniently finds himself far away from the action any time a battle breaks out. At the beginning of one mission, you find him literally holding up a couple of nuns at gunpoint. But despite all that, there is a sense that he's not exactly evil. He's actually a very likeable character, and he seems to want to do the right thing. He just has a bit of trouble with that demon drink. So, after he promises to escort Marston to Mexico to meet his friends, it turns into a massive shootout, as apparently everyone south of the border wants Irish dead. Irish cowers, and Marston saves the day by killing a bunch of people, and then the two of them make it to the opposite shore safely. What follows is a strangely emotional send-off for Irish. Like many of Marston's companions, he's about 90% trouble and 10% help. But when he says goodbye to Marston, never to be seen again, he leaves Marston with an unusually heartfelt line.
You're an angry and a fat ugly man, but not a bad one.
It draws a sort of parallel between the two men, complex people who are decent at heart despite some moral shortcomings. And with that, Irish disappears over the horizon and Marston is left alone once again. Bonnie MacFarlane is easily one of the most sympathetic characters John Marston will ever meet. For starters, she saves Marston's life at the beginning of the game, after he's shot outside of Fort Mercer. After that, she displays non-stop hospitality to Marston, covering his medical bills and giving him work around her ranch. Bonnie is a tough, capable woman who confronts the dangers of the West with a courageously defiant attitude. She's a genuinely good and compassionate person, who is also capable and in charge around the ranch. Then a gang of cattle rustlers sets fire to the MacFarlane's biggest horse barn, and then immediately afterwards, in the hanging of Bonnie MacFarlane, the same gang kidnaps, beats, and at least threatens to rape Bonnie, for no other reason than to make MacFarlane Ranch easier to steal from. What actually happened to her is unclear. It's suggested that she may have been gang raped.
I'm sure it's been nice for the boys to have a boar to play with.
And she shows a large number of cuts and bruises. But what exactly happened to her is left to your imagination. This is just one of many scenarios that shows how good, honest, hard-working people in the West are usually unrewarded and even punished for being so wholesome. The West is a brutal place where lawful, moral people are kicked around by sheer raw power, and Bonnie is a perfect example.
What the hell took you so long, stupid man?
The frontier is full of people trying to put their own spins on modern inventions from back east. Nigel West Dickens is one such example, selling some disgusting concoction as a miracle brew under the guise of science and the wisdom of the East. But while West Dickens is trying to sell people on something he knows is fake, Charles Kinnear is ready to put himself on a flying machine of his own invention because he truly believes in it. Kinnear will ask Marston to track down a collection of animal byproducts to put together his own flying machine. The thing thing is, Red Dead Redemption takes place in 1911, about 8 years after the Wright brothers achieved powered flight. Gliders, like the one Kinnear is trying to create, have been around since the mid-1800s. Naturally, the flying machine collapsed in mid-flight, killing Kinnear in a spectacular crash, which means Charles Kinnear died trying to invent something that had been invented decades earlier. The poor man hadn't done anything wrong, he was just a man with a dream, and pursuing that dream got him killed, never knowing that his quest for glory had already been fulfilled. Even if his flying machine had been successful, it would never have gotten him anything. His dream and his death were for nothing.
I'll be soaring like an eagle, or my name's not Charles Kinnear.
The culmination of John Marston's time in Mexico should feel triumphant in a way. You've seen the atrocities of the existing government firsthand. From the mass execution of civilians on flimsy circumstances to bald-faced corruption at the highest levels. So, in an appointed time, Marston works to help the rebels rise to power. It's a changing of the guard, and it should be a good thing. It's just that by the end of the mission, it's painfully clear that the rebel leader is going to be the exact same type of leader. He has no plans after he rises to power, he just wants the fame and the recognition that goes with it, and will likely rule with the same iron fist that he was fighting against. Reyes' utter indifference to the death of Louisa Fortuna illustrates this perfectly. Fortuna was Reyes' most loyal and devoted follower. She sings his praises at every moment, even as he calls her the wrong name to her face.
Tú sabes que en esta luz puedo ver el fuego en tus ojos. Laura, dame la fuerza para luchar.
And when Fortuna is slaughtered in a suicidal charge to save Reyes' life, he still gets her name wrong.
She will have a day named after her. Laura's Day.
Louisa.
What? Oh yes, I know Laura as well.
Despite his lofty ideals, Reyes clearly doesn't have any real compassion for the people he disdainfully calls peasants. He seems like a person who started off as an idealist, but then became corrupted by the promise of power and public adoration. And because of Marston, Reyes assumes power as a brutal dictator, taking the place of a different brutal dictator. The cycle continues, and nothing has changed but the names.
Well, I must say, I'll miss you, John Marston.
I doubt you'll even remember me, Abraham, but it's been an experience.
By the time Edgar Ross shows up to start bullying John Marston around, Marston has already been through a lot. He's teamed up with a local marshal to take down Bill Williamson's gang, and then teamed up with the Mexican rebels to overthrow their provincial government, taking down Williamson himself in the process. But for Edgar Ross, that's really not enough. The Washington bureaucrat then demands that Marston goes after Dutch de Vanderlinde, the leader of Dutch's gang, the group that Marston used to ride with. Williamson was difficult to take down and taunted Marston constantly. He is ambitious and remorseless as an outlaw, and at the very end, he's still trying to kill Marston. But Dutch is a broken man, who realises that his ideals and dreams had gone unfulfilled and even forgotten. He and his gang committed atrocities in the name of righteousness, but all he did is make a bad situation worse, and now it's too late to change it. He utters his final words.
Our time has passed, God.
And falls to his death of his own fruition. When Ross and Marston find his body, Ross grabs Marston's gun and fires a round into Dutch's lifeless chest, for no reason other than to make it look like Marston had killed him. As if Bonnie MacFarlane hadn't already been through enough, she then ends up as a central character in the Undead Nightmare side story. Although Undead Nightmare is certainly not canon with Red Dead's main story, it contains perhaps the saddest story for the MacFarlane family. Marston first has to clear the MacFarlane ranch of the roving undead, after which he'll find Bonnie, who greets him with open arms. She explains that her father, Drew MacFarlane, has been trying to keep the undead locked in the barn, but that he hasn't been back to the house in over a day. Marston goes to check on things, and things are every bit as bad as Bonnie fears. Her father has turned, and it falls to Marston to take care of him. Bonnie grew up with 6 brothers and her father. 5 of those brothers died, and the other left home forever to become a banker in New York. Bonnie's father is effectively the only family member she has left, and now he's gone too, by Marston's own hand. Bonnie would have every right to be angry with Marston for killing her father, turned or not, but instead she weakly thanks him and retreats into her house.
Take care of yourself, Bonnie.
You too, John.
John Marston is no hero, but it's easy to see that despite his bad deeds in the past, he's really a good man at heart who is trying to reclaim his life and protect his family by acting as Edgar Ross's puppet. But it soon becomes clear that Ross never had any intention of holding up his end of the bargain. As soon as Ross ensures that John has eliminated the rest of Dutch's gang, he sets plans in motion to kill John as well, sending a huge group of soldiers and Bureau men to Marston's ranch. John is able to hold off the assault long enough to send Abigail and Jack, his wife and son, away by horse, keeping them safe. But eventually, John has to answer for his past. Once he knows his family is safe, he steps out of the barn to face the army head on. John takes a few down, but it isn't enough. The army opens fire, bringing John Marston's story to a close with dozens of bullets. Sad as that is, the aftermath is much worse. Abigail died 3 years after John, leaving their 19-year-old son Jack all on his own. Jack hunts down Edgar Ross and challenges him to a duel, exacting his revenge for his father, but in doing so, he brands himself an outlaw, doomed to wander the frontier aimlessly. John sacrificed his life to protect his family and insulate them from outlaw ways. But the end result was that Abigail died young, and Jack became an outlaw just like him. The one and only thing that John didn't want for his son.
Come here, son.
What moments gave you the saddest feels in Red Dead Redemption? We've only touched on a few, so let us know what we missed in the comments below. And as always, enjoy the game.
I can't take it anymore.